It's been a tumultuous day on financial markets. Does that mean anything for ordinary people watching and listening to GB News? Well, it certainly does if they've got a mortgage or a personal loan. And let me just explain a little bit, because there's all these concepts flying around and it's hard to keep track of them. I've got some graphics here. Now, cast your mind back about 3 weeks ago. The Bank of England raised interest rates, and it raised the base rate to 2.25%. That's the main interest rate in the economy, the interest rates from which all others are set, and it raised it by 0.5% to 2.25%. On that day, the money market's interest rate, that is what we call the 10-year gilt yield, that was 3.49%, if we can change the graphic. What that is the cost that the government must pay in order to borrow money. That's the interest rate that the government pays. Now, all mortgage rates have to be more than that, because the government borrows most cheaply. Now, on the 23rd of September, remember that 3.49 number, the government's mini budget. And since then, if we move the graphic again, that money markets rate has gone up to 4.44%. Now, I've used the word now there, Patrick, and people watching TV can see that, because it moves around all the time. This isn't an interest rate set by the Bank of England or any politician. This is what traders around the world are saying to the government. We are going to charge you 4.44% in order to borrow money. And that is what sets all mortgage rates. Now, all mortgage rates are above that. If you look at this, though, Patrick, back in January, the mortgage rate, the average mortgage rate that UK consumers were forced to pay for their home loans was just over 3.5%. It went all the way up to about 5.5% in September, very gradual and steady increase, and now it's about 6%. Right. So if people say, oh, the mortgage rate was 3%, now it's 6%, it's all because of the mini-budget, that graph disproves it. Because you can see there's a gradual upward trend that had nothing to do with the mini-budget, though, of course, in the last couple of weeks, the mini-budget definitely had a role to play. And one final graph, for all those older people who say, oh, all these youngsters, they eat too much avocado on toast, that's why they can't buy a house. Check this out. In the late 80s and early 90s, the average mortgage was costing 29% of the average post-tax income, right? Now, at 6% mortgage rates, that red line there, we're going up to that level again, even though interest rates now are like 4, 5, 6%, rather than in the late 80s, they were like 15 or 20%. Why? Because houses are so much more expensive. People are paid so much more for their housing. So we're getting now, in terms of affordability or unaffordability, to a late 80s, early 90s situation. Even at these low interest rates, and interest rates could yet go up quite a lot more since.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good myth-busting there, I think, Liam. But something else I'd like you to just bust for me, really, is this idea now that Britain can't go for growth. It was winding me up at the time. It's winding me up again now. The idea that we are not capable of achieving growth, the kind of growth that actually the IFS might have said that would stop us having to go and find this 60 billion quid from somewhere, potentially.
I think your instincts and mine on this are quite similar, actually. We both believe that the UK can grow strongly, and that IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies number you mentioned earlier, it's very scary. The British government must cut spending by this amount. If growth stays where it is, if they don't do anything in terms of taxation, then maybe they may have to do that. But if growth is higher than the IFS says, if growth is higher than the government estimates, then the fiscal situation, the tax and spend situation, it suddenly looks so much better, because the pie is bigger. The cake, there's more cake to go around. And let's go from the IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, to another acronym, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, keep up. Now, the IMF doesn't do Britain any favours, right? These are the people who said we'd be at the back of the queue, and Barack Obama during Brexit, it will be terrible, terrible, terrible. But just in the last hour or so, the IMF put some estimates out for growth, and let me put my analytical glasses on and read them out, because Germany, says the IMF, will grow by 1.5%, the US by 1.6%, Japan 1.7%, France 2.5%, Italy 3.2%, Canada 3.3%, and the final G7 country, Great Britain and Northern Ireland will grow by 3.6%. These are 2022 growth forecasts, according to the IMF, and that, Patrick, is before these pro-growth policies from Truss and Kwarteng. So these estimates will be like a shot in the arm for them. They'll be kind of manna from heaven. Suddenly someone is saying something good about our policies.